This man ate a plane.
Not accidentally, not as a dare. This is the story of a French boy who grew up to become known as Monsieur Mangetout, Mr. Eat It All. A man who held a Guinness Book of World Records for the strangest diet ever documented. A man whose body defied every rule of human biology. His name was Michel Lotito. He was born on June 16, 1950, in Grenoble, France. By all accounts, his early childhood was unremarkable. He was a normal boy living a normal life in a normal French town. Until the day the glass broke.
Kid, 9 years of age.
He was 9 years old.
Took off from there.
The exact circumstances are lost to time. Some say he was drinking from the glass when it shattered in his hand. Others say he dropped it. But what happened next is documented, verified, and absolutely true. Michel looked down at the broken glass, and instead of seeing danger, instead of seeing sharp edges that could slice open his mouth and throat, he saw something else. Curiosity.
He picked up a piece, a small shard, and he put it in his mouth. Now, in a normal person, this would be catastrophic. Glass is sharp. It can lacerate your tongue, shred your esophagus, puncture your stomach, and perforate your intestines. Eating glass can cause internal bleeding, infection, and death. But Michel didn't bleed. He didn't choke. He didn't feel pain. He chewed the glass like it was candy. He swallowed it. And he waited. Nothing happened. No pain, no blood, no emergency room visit, nothing. So he tried another piece, and another. By the end of that day, Michel Lotito had consumed an entire broken glass and lived to tell the tale. Most children would have been terrified by this experience. Most parents would have rushed their child to a hospital. But Michel wasn't scared. He was fascinated. He began experimenting. First with more glass, then with metal, coins, nails, screws, small pieces at first, testing his limits. And every single time, his body somehow processed these indigestible materials without injury. But here's what makes the story truly bizarre. Michel didn't just survive eating these things. He seemed to thrive on it. By his teenage years, Michel had discovered he could eat nearly anything: metal, glass, rubber, even toxic materials that would poison most people. And as word of his ability spread, people started to wonder, was this a medical miracle? A genetic mutation? Or was Michel Lotito suffering from a dangerous psychological disorder? To understand what was happening to Michel, we need to talk about a condition that most people have never heard of. A disorder that compels people to eat things that aren't food. A condition called pica. Pica is an eating disorder characterized by the persistent craving and consumption of non-food substances. The name comes from the Latin word for pica, a bird known for eating almost anything. People with pica might eat dirt, chalk, paper, hair, paint chips, or in Michel's case, metal and glass. Pica is more common than you might think. It affects pregnant women, young children, and people with certain nutritional deficiencies or developmental disorders. Usually, it's temporary and relatively harmless. But Michel's case was different. Profoundly different. Most people with pica crave things like ice or clay, substances that might be odd but aren't immediately lethal. Michel craved metal. Sharp, jagged, toxic metal. And here's what baffled doctors. He wasn't just surviving. He was completely fine. Medical professionals examined Michel extensively. They wanted to understand how his body could process materials that should have killed him. And what they discovered was extraordinary. Michel Lotito had an unusually thick stomach lining and intestinal walls. Where most people's stomach lining is about 1 millimeter thick, Michel's was significantly thicker, almost twice the normal density. This meant that sharp objects that would normally puncture or tear through digestive tissue couldn't penetrate his stomach walls.
Any food
But that wasn't all.
Digest. In his case,
at quite high speed, like bullets. So the danger, as she said, and it really annoyed her, that every time he went to the bathroom, he would end up chipping the porcelain at home from these, basically, butt bullets, you know. Basta.
Michel also had abnormally powerful digestive acids. His stomach produced gastric juices so strong that they could break down metal over time, something that shouldn't be possible in a human body. Think about what this means. Michel's body had adapted, whether through genetics, mutation, or sheer biological anomaly, to digest the indigestible. He was, in many ways, a medical impossibility walking around in human form. But here's something important to understand. Michel didn't see his condition as a disorder. He saw it as a gift, an ability, something that made him special. And as he grew older, he decided to turn his unusual talent into a career. By his late teens and early 20s, Michel Lotito began performing publicly as Monsieur Mangetout, Mr. Eat-It-All. He traveled across Europe, performing in circuses, on television shows, at exhibitions. He would stand on stage, take an ordinary metal object, a bicycle chain, a handful of nails, pieces of a shopping cart, and eat them in front of stunned audiences. But Michel wasn't satisfied with eating small objects. He wanted to prove he could consume something truly impossible, something no one had ever done before. He wanted to eat an airplane. In 1978, Michel Lotito set himself an audacious goal. He would consume an entire Cessna 150 light aircraft. Not a toy airplane, not a model, a real full-sized airplane made of metal, glass, rubber, and plastic, weighing approximately 1,000 pounds. People thought he was insane. Doctors warned him it could kill him. But Michel was determined. Here's how he did it. First, Michel used an electric power saw to cut the airplane into small, manageable pieces. He would cut sections of the fuselage, the wings, the landing gear, everything, into chunks roughly the size of a large pill. Then came the preparation. Before eating any metal, Michel would drink large quantities of mineral oil. This lubricated his throat and digestive tract, allowing the sharp metal pieces to slide down more easily without causing cuts. He would then place a piece of metal in his mouth, not chewing it, but swallowing it whole, like taking a vitamin. Immediately after, he would drink massive amounts of water to help push the metal through his system. Doctors who studied him confirmed he could consume up to 2 pounds of metal per day. But Michel was careful. He knew his limits. He paced himself. The consumption of the Cessna 150 took 2 years. From 1978 to 1980, Michel methodically ate piece after piece of the aircraft. The landing gear, the seats, the instrument panel, the windows, the propeller, the wings, the tail section, every bolt, every screw, every wire. By the time he finished, in 1980, Michel Lotito had consumed the entire airplane, and he was fine. Let that sink in for a moment. A human being ate an airplane, not in a movie, not in a myth, in real life. Documented, verified, witnessed by countless people. The Guinness Book of World Records officially recognized his achievement, awarding him the record for strangest diet. But the airplane was just the beginning. Over the course of his life, Michel consumed 18 bicycles, 15 supermarket shopping carts, 7 television sets, 6 chandeliers, 2 beds, 1 pair of skis, 1 computer, 1 coffin complete with handles, and of course, 1 airplane. In total, it's estimated he ate nearly 9 tons of metal between 1959 and 1997. But here's the most ironic part of Michel's story. Despite being able to digest metal, glass, and toxic materials without harm, there was one thing his stomach couldn't handle: bananas and hard-boiled eggs. That's right, the man who could eat an airplane got an upset stomach from eating normal food. Doctors never fully understood why, but Michel often joked that his body had become so adapted to processing metal that regular food felt foreign to it. But every story has an ending, and Michel's life, as extraordinary as it was, couldn't last forever.
Monsieur Mangetout died of natural causes in 2007 at the age of 57.
Specifically, it's believed he died of heart failure, a condition completely unrelated to his unusual diet. After his death, medical professionals who had studied Michel for years reflected on his case. They still couldn't fully explain how his body worked. Yes, he had a thicker stomach lining. Yes, he had stronger digestive acids. But that alone shouldn't have been enough. Some speculated that Michel might have had a genetic mutation, something that altered his digestive system at a fundamental level. Others believed his body had adapted over decades of conditioning, gradually building resistance to materials that would normally be fatal. But no one could say for certain. Michel's case raised profound questions about human biology. How adaptable are our bodies? Could other people have similar mutations that haven't been discovered? Are there limits to what the human digestive system can process? Or can those limits be expanded? We still don't have answers. It's crucial to understand something. Michel Lotito was an extreme outlier. His case was one in billions. Pica is a real disorder that affects millions of people. But most people with pica do not have Michel's unique physiology. For a normal person, eating metal or glass would be catastrophic, fatal. It would cause internal injuries, infections, and death. Michel's body was a biological anomaly, and attempting to replicate his feats would be incredibly dangerous. Michel Lotito's story is proof that reality is stranger than fiction, that the human body is capable of things we can't predict or fully understand, and that sometimes the most bizarre medical cases aren't diseases or disorders, they're gifts. If this story blew your mind, hit that subscribe button. We cover the most unbelievable, most verified, most shocking medical cases every single week. From mysterious disorders to medical miracles to cases that rewrite what we think is possible. Drop a comment and let me know, had you ever heard of Michel Lotito before? What's the strangest thing you've ever accidentally eaten? And what medical mystery should we cover next?